the biggest threat is going to be this zapper, actually. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to talk to you about cybercrime threats. I've been in the world of security for 40 years now. So I started sort of rattling handles on shops, going around walking my beat with a big tall silly hat on many years ago. Investigated burglaries, robberies, website takedowns with the Federation Against Copyright Theft, abusive imagery in hard copy, in child protection. And the thing about security is you listen to different people's presentations about things and you think, how could that be sort of manipulated or abused by criminals? So I sat there thinking about the NFTs and the digital horses and thinking, could you steal the horse? Probably not, because it's probably on the blockchain. But could you get into a sort of situation where you get digital doping of horses with malware? So that's my takeaway from sort of today in terms of where we're going with digital. Okay, so is there a problem? I've got to admit, a lot of the industries I interface with tend to be in the financial services, given we're on the Isle of Man. So we do lots of training around cybercrime, cybersecurity awareness. So I had to look in and do a bit of research on this. Is there a problem? Well, there's always going to be a problem the minute you go online, because data is a commodity, money is a commodity, digital is a commodity. So the minute you put up a website, it's a honeypot for criminals. They're going to try and find a way in. So yeah, of course there's a problem, but I didn't know too much about the sector. So it's been quite an interesting exercise actually looking at this. And none of it really surprises me, but games accounts hacked across the globe. That's from Norton. And it's sort of highlighting the countries with the biggest hits, if you like. On Australia, for some reason. Followed by the UK, the US, New Zealand and Germany. And that's relatively recent. It cuts across the pandemic as well. And so Peter from Mac Group spoke early on this morning about the damage that a cyber attack can have on your business in terms of ransomware, reputational damage and all that sort of stuff. So it's something that we really need to be sitting up and taking notice of, because that will wipe out your business. So all the investment, all that hard work, if we don't do certain things about it, and some of it's not that difficult, our lives can, your livelihood can be destroyed. So that's just about gamer accounts. So the whole world of cyber and cybercrime is massive. And in 15 minutes, I'm only going to skim over some things. So I've used a couple of examples. So everybody familiar with malware and malicious software? So this is something that's brought into your systems that will exploit it and damage it. So it could kick off a ransomware attack. It could prevent you getting access. It could be stealing data, all those sorts of things. It's something you don't want in your systems. And malware is a huge problem everywhere in pretty much any industry. So this was a study from Kaspersky, and they were looking at a massive coordinated campaign called something called Swearsdropper. And the interesting thing about this was that this was SEO optimized. So if you search for a particular game, it will come up in the very early results in Google. How many pages do you search on Google before you switch off? Most people on the training we do say, if it's not on page one, I don't bother looking. So it may well, that particular malware site may be in competition with your site, for example, and it'll be overtaking it. And people click on what's in front of them, they go to the very top of the page because that's the way our brain works. Now if they do that, if they download what they think is a game, that will, the payload involves malicious software. And that's going to go into the browser and it's going to steal stuff. Including cryptocurrency, which we've spoken about, including data, and that affected users in 45 countries. So, and they looked a bit in many more detail of this, and it's PCs and mobile devices were affected by it. Again, I'm guessing a lot of the audience, your audience, will be on the mobile devices, playing these games. So stealers, bankers, credentials, money, crypto, it's all out there for them. Just by perhaps cloning a website, becoming popular. And maybe it's not a surprise, but some of these sites originate in Russia. But to all intents and purposes, a user wouldn't know that the minute they land on their site unless they knew what to look for and how to research it. So they're in competition. The criminals are in competition with your sites, and they're making them look very, very attractive. And that was an example from a Minecraft crack. So they're trying to sort of make these things, and we encountered this a lot when I worked for FACT, the Federation Against Copyright Theft. They were in competition with legitimate businesses, trying to get you to buy stuff that was cheap or it's free or whatever. And so if they downloaded the zip archive onto their machine, it would launch the malicious software. And it was as easy as that, and they may not even find out. So that's one of the things we sort of need to be aware of. And any account anybody opens, there's an element of personal information that goes across to you as the provider, which will be name, and obviously you've got to gather all this for the KYC, so name, email address, date of birth, address, and so on and so forth. So that's gold dust for hackers. So not only is it malicious software, it's all this information about people that cyber criminals thrive on. It's gold dust for them. Banking information, and what are they going to use it for? Identity fraud. Those emails that come in and say, we've noticed on your computer you've been looking at naughty stuff. You pay us X amount in Bitcoin, or we're going to send this, that, and the other, so, whoever, and ruin your life. So personal data, and it's been equated to, the new oil, really. It is gold dust to hackers, and it's really, really important we take care of it, but also encourage the users to become more acquainted with security. Because they don't often think that way. They just want to go and play a game or whatever, or gamble. They're not really interested. They don't think security. I don't think, you told me different. But, and that's, most users are like that. They just want to get on and do what they need to do. So I don't know how well you can see this, but these were the sort of top games. So Minecraft, PUBG, Fortnite, no surprises there. So they do the research as well. They know what people want. And if they can offer a quick way around things or a better experience or claim to do that, that is what they're going to do. The other place where a lot of this stuff appears is on the dark web. So the dark web you cannot access from a conventional connection or on Google. You have to launch a particular piece of software called Tor, and you can go to the dark web and you can look for people's data. And there's an abundance of it, because what they do, they will paste some of it up for free, but they also sell it. So if they've managed to get into your site and extracted your customer database, they will then offer that for sale on the dark web, and they'll trade in Bitcoin most of the time. So I wouldn't say the dark web is easy to navigate, but it's certainly a place where criminals and hackers will trade, talk to each other, and exchange in commodities. It's not, as I say, it's not overly easy, but this is an example of a particular site. You can go in there and search. It does talk about Instagram accounts, but it's many databases are in there that they can go off and look for. So if you want to do it, the tools are there to do it, and if you want to instruct hackers, there's Hackers as a Service. So if they've got a down on your particular site, somebody will pay some money and they'll get a hacker to do it. It's like hiring a window cleaner or a mechanic, and there are people out there who will do it. So one of the things I mentioned in the blurb was about, can we do more to prevent cybercrime? And I think there's an element in, when we talk about cybercrime, we think, it's just the police. That's their responsibility. But you can use what I know as routine activity theory to sort of start thinking about, we can all do something to make it a better experience and protect people. And routine activity theory, I've been acquainted with for about 20 odd years. It's about how we prevent crime. Now, I've heard criminologists say it doesn't apply to cybercrime. Well, I beg to differ. So what this does is it breaks crime down into three areas. So you've got the criminal, you've got the location, and you've got your victim or potential victim. We are all potential victims because we're using the internet. So the location is the internet. So the criminologists will say, well, the internet's far too big. Well, we can all control our own personal space on the internet and contribute that way. And as far as a criminal goes, I would say leave that to the cops. Leave that to law enforcement, leave that to the security services, because there's only so much we can do. Where we can make a difference is with the victim, or the potential victim. And I say that because we can offer education and assistance and awareness as an industry. I mean, my company, Intellect Group, we put out every week, we put out 3 bits of information about cybersecurity just to raise awareness. It's about making sure this is sort of day-to-day stuff with your customers. So I know there's people in this room that are well versed with this corporate social responsibility. Great, love it. How many operators have we got in the room? Just one. Is that it? The question I was going to ask was, how many operators have got cyber security awareness or online security guidance on their websites? I can probably answer that question because I did a little audit and I couldn't find any. So, and I'm not being critical here because I think you've all got enough to do. I've listened to how the regulator, you've got to sort of step up to the plate, all this sort of stuff. But the question I'm asking is, could operators do a bit more to prevent crime by making sure the customers are aware of the sorts of things that are going on, that the sorts of things they can do and the sorts of things they should do to protect their data, protect them, protect their money, their reputation, etc. And that was where I was coming from today in terms of threats, because I didn't come up here to scare to death about all these sorts of things that are going on out there. It was about asking the question of ourselves, could we do a little bit better? So I'm going to sort of suggest there's a little bit in all this about cyber social responsibility. And you don't want these, let's call them illegitimate operators, to take away business. You want to drive them to your site. You want to cut them out of the deal completely. So if customers can be persuaded that coming to your site, they're not going to have that experience, and you're offering them the assistance and guidance to keep on top of it, then I think that has to be a good thing. I think it sort of speaks to sort of corporate social responsibility. So these are just some suggestions I'm going to make. Perhaps some clear warnings about the threats that cyber criminals place, and that can be done through social media. It doesn't have to be on your website. Are you aware that this is happening? So emphasising the use of the original sites, which comes back to my earlier point. You want to drive the traffic to you. You don't want it to go elsewhere. And I know there's a huge problem. We used to suffer this with massive clone sites, and we used to be able to take them down. And I don't know if you suffer that particular problem, but it is something that can be done, and you can get Google to block them as well if you notify them. Promote two-factor authentication. I always advocate this. It's one of the easiest ways to protect your information. That you go to an online account, and when you go to log in, you've got to prove you are who you say you are. On your device, you enter a 6-figure code. Dead easy. And that's going to stop this sort of account takeovers. I've heard of one instance where a crypto platform, their 2FA was compromised in some way. I don't know the ins and outs of that, but that's only the one time I've heard that. Stressing to them the importance of security updates. So if they're on the browser, there are things they need to do to keep it patched. So don't run an unpatched browser or an unpatched system. So all these sorts of little messages we can give to, and cues we can give to customers. And, can you put out warnings every so often about the current threats that you're seeing? Are you aware of them? All that sort of stuff. So that was where I want to sort of emphasise today. That's my company, Intellect Group. We are risk, security, digital. No longer do I rattle doors. Most of my time is spent in front of a screen trying to sort of protect businesses that way. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the invitation, Miles. Much appreciated. Okay.